got to drink it all before we move. I don't want to have to move it.
Yeah, you say that now, but then when you get there, when you move to a new house and don't have a glass of wine for that first moving day, you're gonna kill yourself.
Listen, running out of wine isn't really a problem right now.
We cracked the second bottle the other night. It was good.
Oh, do you remember what it was?
It was the other red you gave me. I'm trying to think of what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I can remember them when I hear them, but I forget what they are. Let me retweet. I have nothing creative to say anymore. That's the problem.
Why does it never show up on my homepage that we're live? That's frustrating.
Maybe it takes some time.
No, stop being silly. Stop being silly.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Never see it there. I have to go direct to our page.
If I go to subscriptions, I see it.
Yeah, but I want to be on the homepage. I subscribe to it. I hit the bell icon. It should be on my homepage.
It's true. You hit the bell icon.
Stupid YouTube doesn't know how to
hit the input. Bell icon. Hey, Kevin. You gonna kick off some music, or are we just gonna dive into it? What are we doing here?
Can we hear it? Can we hear it?
1, 2, 1, 2. Coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know, Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John. You know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP, the ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting, I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out.
Let's go. I gotta watch the YouTube stream now to get the music. That's hurtful.
But the delay hurts.
Yeah, I know.
Whatever.
You're listening to episode 251 of PHPUgly. I am your host with this lovely knight, Eric Van Johnson, and with me, to my right, is John Congdon.
What are we going to do for our extra special 250 episode? That's what I want to know.
We already passed our 250th episode. We're on 251.
Whoops.
And
on our next 250, we'll do something special.
The bottom to my top, Tom Rideout.
Don't like that.
Don't like
that at all.
That's how I see you on my screen anyways. I don't know.
This isn't getting any better.
Yep.
It's getting...
Oh man, how's everybody?
I think we're going to start over.
Worn out.
You don't even physically work for a living. What are you talking about? Tired. All right, Tom, let's start with you. Why are you so tired? What about coding makes you tired?
Well, it's the organizational stuff that I'm just not that great at still. Like, it turns out doing nearly a decade of working from home, being the only back-end developer and having one front-end developer with no QA department kind of makes you bad at communication. like the process of having a QA department and other backend developers, I'm not exactly getting through as clearly as I had hoped I just naturally would because of my sparkling personality.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing a lot lately to try and organize my thoughts, organize all of the things I'm working on, and to sort of upscale my communication skills. And it is a little exhausting to start off with.
When you have people on your team that are good at writing documentation or tech specs or PR descriptions or anything, it drives me crazy because I'm so bad at it. I feel like I'm in your shoes where I'm trying to get out my thoughts. They're scattered everywhere. They don't necessarily make sense.
Yeah.
In my mind, when I'm writing it, it's like perfectly clear, but
well, I'm rereading
Ugh.
Pragmatic Programmer, which has a lot of stuff for how to improve your communication skills. So hopefully that'll help me out. But it's also organization stuff. You know, I have the responsibility of doing pull requests, code reviews, and then I have tickets that are in progress as well as tickets that are bumped back to code review or bumped back to change request. And like juggling 5 or 6 tickets at once can be very overwhelming. And then I had to have a meeting this morning because, as I told you guys earlier, there was a bit of a miscommunication, and I am no longer going to the conference in Denver.
oh no, what happened?
So I had created a sort of a sales pitch presentation and emailed it to them for their review before the conference, and they were like, "Oh no, you're supposed to do an hour-and-a-half technical hands-on workshop." And I was like, "Well, it's in 14 days, so that's not going to happen."
Oh, they love you.
Yeah, well, they said, you know, it's no problem, and you know, come on back next year, and hopefully we'll have things together.
So was this your company or was this
No,
organizers of the event? How did this happen?
we're not. It's not really clear where the miscommunication occurred. But when I had found out I was doing this presentation, this like 20-30 minute thing, they didn't have like a schedule on the website or anything like that. They hadn't. I had no way of knowing exactly what it was except for what I was being told, and I was just informed incorrectly. So it was rough. Sort of a 5 o'clock email yesterday where I just went, I was about to take a nap and now I can't sleep.
I am still so confused on it. Did you email your presentation to your company or to the organizers of the event?
To the organizers.
One and the same.
My company, the people who I was discussing this with at my company were all under the impression it was just a short product presentation. The conference people were under the impression that it was a lengthy, hands-on, interactive, multimedia experience.
That makes a little more sense now.
Was not. It's not that.
Remember the whole communication thing we were talking about at the beginning?
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons why this came into focus so sharply. Is I realized, you know, as the sole developer for 8 years at my last company, I didn't really talk to people as much as I thought I did.
Talking to people is overrated.
Kind of is.
Yeah.
How about you? How was your week,
Eric?
My week?
Yeah,
It
your
was,
week.
It was fine. Got back.
Did you say it was wine?
It was fine.
It was wine?
I got my wine. I got my fine wine. That's right. I got my wine this week. We're back on the wine kick. Yeah, it was good. I'm having a weird problem. You know how it is when you sit there and like, well, I'll implement this one thing. It takes me about 5 minutes to do, and then like 4 hours later, you're still working on it. It's like, what is going on? I had that problem today, and I still don't. I don't care enough about it on this project to worry about it, but it's gnawing away at me, and I want to get it resolved. So we've talked in the past about using Minio in applications, either in development for an application where you're going to swap it out with AWS S3, or in recent shows, I've talked about deploying Minio as an actual solution. I've used it a dozen times, and one of the latest, my Docker configuration for Minio has evolved. I went from one Docker container that just spun up Minio to having a Minio cluster. So I have 4 Minio Docker containers and a Minio Nginx component on the front end. Thomas, you're not muting when you do that, but
Sorry.
no problem. And I've used this exact configuration a couple times. I mean, I've been using it for about a year or two. No, it works fine. There's some oddities when you have to actually switch over to S3. There's a couple things you have to remember, but it's never been an issue. For whatever reason, for this project that I'm working on, at the last minute, I swapped out the storage to Minio because I'm like, you know what? This client likes to use S3 for their assets. Let me go ahead and configure their development environment to use Minio. Now, one of the cool things about their development environment, it's a Laravel application, and the owner of the application is like, we want to be current with everything. We want to be current with PHP. We want to be current with the development workflow. He's like, so go ahead and use Docker. So Docker, Laravel, PHP 8, it had Sail written all over it. I mean, Laravel has their new Sail implementation, and Sail has a Minio install that you can do with it. It's back to the simple Minio install where it's just one container. I spin this thing up, and I really honestly thought it was going to be nothing. I know how to configure Minio. I thought it was going to be like a 10-15 minute task. I can't get the damn thing to work, and I can't figure out why. I can get it to save, so I have it saving the files, but it's not displaying. And I've had this problem in the past where I've had to use with S3. I have had to use temporary URLs. So I'm like, well, maybe they made something's changed in Minio or the drivers in Laravel. Let me change the URL I'm grabbing to the temporary URL. I mean, I really didn't think it was going to be a big problem. Nope, that doesn't work. And I did it at the end of the day today, and well, it wasn't at the end of the day when I started it, but like a couple hours later, it was the end of the day. So it's just like in the back of my mind gnawing away at me, like, you still haven't gotten that working yet. It's bugging the hell out of me.
Now I want to pause the show and go help you figure that out.
I know, because it's uploading. It's one of these weird things, and I've had this problem, as I mentioned, with S3 in the past, with trying to display the image. And with S3, you have to do this temporary URL, and you give the URL, like 10 minutes of life or whatever, and it works fine. And I just can't get Minio to work. And I don't know if it's Minio not working or... No, it's Minio. It's something with the configuration Minio, because even if I extract away the Laravel app and I try to view the image myself with how I know how to navigate to it through Minio, I can't. It keeps saying access denied. So I'm like, God damn it, what the hell? So, oh shit, I think I just realized what it is. Holy crap!
Squeak, 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 squeak. I'll be a rubber ducky.
My god! We
need a rubber duck animation.
Oh, and I spun down I need to spin the container back up. God damn it. I think I know what it is.
Not during the show.
No. I think I know what it is. God damn it. This is why we need a live code. We should be coding right now. We need a streamer code. That's what people want to see. Yes, I know what it is. There's a setting. I think there's a setting on the bucket that you have to say the bucket is public. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. There's something like that. There's a setting on a bucket in Minio that you have to check. God damn it. So that's what I'll be doing as I'm editing the show tonight. Besides
I'm glad we could help you solve that.
Like I said, getting back, I was on vacation last week, getting back to coding. It's been fun. Stressing out. I was telling John before the show, the whole idea of selling the house now is just really starting to stress out the family. And I'm feeling bad about it. I mean, we had decided before the pandemic we were moving. I mean, this is a long-standing conversation within the house.
Years in the making.
Yeah. So the concept of moving is nothing new. Now that triggers are being pulled, that we're trying to put the house on the market, we're trying to clear out everything out of our house, trying to find a new house. Now the anxiety and stress is going up, and it's starting to affect the general vibe in the house. But we'll get there. We need to find a house. I have no question we're going to sell our house, because houses right now are just going like crazy. We just need to find a house, get the wheels going to purchase the house. And I think everybody will chill out. But yeah,
when it comes to
speaking of conferences, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, when it comes to packing up your house, deep breath, start in one room, get it done, move on to the next.
Yeah, see, that's what we try. So if you notice my office, I mean, things behind me are slowly going away. All of my stuff, all the stuff I had up, I used to have all my little Batman toys, my elephants and everything were up there. They're all gone. Even stuff that's on my little shelf over there, you can't really see it. Only thing really over there now are wine bottles and a printer. So yeah, we have been doing that. It's just not going as fast as we'd like. And it's just like, oh my God, it's just taking so long. And ideally we would do the whole, keep trash storage sort of scenario, but we're not even doing that now. We're just like, just pack it all up. We'll figure it out later.
That's not the way to do it.
You're almost up to the last. You're almost up to the last stage where you just get a box of matches and go room by room, lighting it slowly on fire.
So that is a real conversation to have, because it's like, okay, we live in a high risk fire area of wildfires here in Southern California. So we have a pack it and scramble plan in our house of, okay, these are where the photo albums are, these are where the towers are. That's pretty much all we worry about. Oh, and a couple of quilts that my wife's grandmother made. So we've already identified what we take in the case of a wildfire and pack up, and it has to be able to fit in whatever vehicles we have. I very much want to implement that plan. It's like, okay, listen, it's the pack and scramble plan. Whatever we had for wildfires, we put in the vehicles. Everything else, we just sell at the house. See, why do we have all these pictures of your family? It comes with a house, man. I don't tell you. Leave my motorcycle
pre-decorated. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, John, I reached out to you earlier this week. I don't know if I got a commitment from you, but with Thomas saying that he is not going to FinTech, and Thomas, you'd already said you aren't going to Longhorn, right?
Not going to Longhorn.
I had told John earlier that I am out. I'm not going to go to Longhorn. That Delta variants is just getting too hot down there.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. But I keep putting it's in the back of my mind. It's like, it's still, 6 weeks away. I'm like, something could change, but I know it's not going to.
No, it is a hot zone right now, and you could not pay me to go.
Yeah. And I was telling John, I'm very fortunate in working with Oscar, a PHP architect, because he puts me in contact with a lot of people to speak to do interviews, either for the podcast or for the magazine. I get to talk to a lot of people who wouldn't give me the time of day normally, like John. And I had a long conversation with Sebastian Bergman. Are you familiar with who Sebastian is? Yeah. So he's the creator of PHP Unit. It was one of these. So he wanted to do. I was doing a. He's the community corner interview for next month, September. So I'm actually writing it up now. When I do community corner interviews, the people typically have a choice. We can do it over email, which a lot of people choose, or I'll do it over Zoom and transcribe it. The only the thing is, obviously, when I transcribe it, I might take some liberties with how I organize some of the words. And he was like, I'd much rather do a Zoom call if you're comfortable with that. I'm like, yeah, that's I don't prefer the Zoom calls because it's more work for me, because it's got to be transcribed. I got to piece everything together, and people have weird speech patterns, and there's a lot of different factors that play into it. Whereas when I do it over email, people can kind of think about their answers. They type it out. It's almost a copy and paste for me. It's very easy to do the email one. But I do enjoy the Zoom calls because they're much more organic. I'll have some concepts of questions I want to ask, but depending on the answers or depending on what's discussed, other questions may come up, and it's a much more organic conversation. And talking to Sebastian was very impactful to me. I very much enjoyed speaking with him. But I was sharing with John that he said something to me that I'm going to add to the article, but I'll share with you guys here, was that I'd asked him specifically, we were talking about community, because he's a big community person, and he's a big conference goer as well. And so we were talking about community, and we're talking about the in-person conferences again. And he's like, I'm committed to not going to conferences this year. He says, I don't know about next year. We'll see. And he says, and I'm not only not going because I want to make sure that I'm safe, because things, depending on who's asking, the risk may be fairly low for me. But I don't want to go because I don't want to encourage other people to go either. Like, I don't want other people risking going to a conference. It was just like
pretty highly of himself.
Well, no, I don't think it was him thinking highly of himself. I think it was a fundamental thing. He's like, yes, there are exceptions, but in general, I still don't think it's a good practice. So I'm going to continue to hold back. And he encourages other people to hold back. And I told John, I'm like, after he said that, it really got me thinking. He's like, as bad as I want to go to Longhorn, and as bad as I want to see people, Joe Ferguson in our Discord will be there talking. Sarah Goldman in our Discord will be there talking. Somebody else was in our Discord, right?
Well, I know somebody not in our Discord, but Andy Snell's going to be there talking, and I work with him at Phone Burner.
There you go. Andy's going to be there talking. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people, not to mention the Longhorn organizers themselves, who are all great guys. There's so many reasons I want to go, but I just can't. I can't do it, and I feel super bad about it, because I really want to help the community come back, but I don't know. I'm not there.
And then you said something more impactful to me, where I'm in agreement with you on all of that, and I've pretty much decided I'm not going, even though I'm holding out hope that some miracle happens. But we had talked about giving away our tickets if we decide not to go. But how bad we would feel giving it away, again, encouraging people to go to a conference, and what happens if they got sick, or they got other people sick, or whatever. It's like, now there's this feeling responsible for things that we shouldn't feel responsible for.
Do it the capitalist way, sell the tickets, and then you can say, well, they knew what they were getting into when they bought it. So feel no remorse whatsoever.
So the good thing is, if there is a good thing is we did show our support. We financially helped back the conference. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to miss me or miss John not really being there.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
that
I jump in too quick on that.
That piece is done. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we did kind of say we would give him away. I feel very self-conscious about giving him away. I don't know how we want to handle that. What do you think?
I thought we weren't, but we could. I don't know.
I know
I
lots of people who are vaccinated and don't have family that they're worried about and want to go to the conference, who would love the tickets.
But and we don't question that, but it's the principle, right? What message are we sending, and then what if something does go sideways and that person gets impacted by it, or other people get impacted by it from that person? You know, it's a lot on your shoulders, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's one of the areas where I think people care for themselves pretty well.
If you're in our Discord, that will be the conversation for the next month. If you listen to the show later, if you listen to the audio stream, feel free to pop in discord.phpugly.com. Yeah, and let us know your thoughts on what we should do with the tickets. So the tickets have been purchased. The good people at Longhorn PHP have seen that income. Basically, the only income they're going to see from it, anyways. Because I mean, there's not like there's other things we could do. What are your thoughts on what we should do with the tickets? You've heard my argument. I'm very resistant to give them away, but I am open to the conversation. So if somebody has an argument, or not an argument, but a point that they want to make, feel free to make it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a weird time we live in with this whole COVID crap. I mean, my kids just started school this past week. Line. The very first weekend, my youngest gets sick. I mean,
how is he, by the way?
Sunday night, I lay in bed at 11:18. I happen to look at the clock. I'm just falling asleep at 11:30 when he comes running into our room. And I'm desperately trying to get him not to jump on my wife, because that's what he does. He runs in and he jumps on her. So I'm like, buddy, let's go. I'll take you back to I'll take you back to your room. Like, I'll go lay with him to get him to. And he's fighting me. And then finally I hear him say, I threw up in my bed. And sure enough, like 2 huge piles in his bed. It's disgusting. He then sleeps in our bed, and every 30 to 60 minutes, he's up, just throwing up. It was a horrible night. And of course, we're freaking out because he's back in school. We've spent a year and a half being so careful as a family, not going anywhere, not doing much. Yet we go back to school. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's just a stomach bug. Kids, this happens. But we're responsible. We go get him and my other son tested, even though he has no symptoms. And thankfully, they came back negative. But it's sad that the first thing you have to think about is it COVID?
Well, my daughter Emily, you're familiar with Emily, right, John? She watches she watches a little girl, and she takes her to school. So she just started school. I think she just started kindergarten, and like you said, they've been in school for about a week, and they got a report this morning. Their school has shut down due to COVID. COVID outbreak. Yep.
So
and they have a mask mandate and everything.
But it's only indoors.
Yeah, I don't know the
I've
details.
been watching the Poway. I mean, I'm part of the Poway school district, and like our school had one school-based incident. Another local elementary had, I think, 4. So I don't know what it takes to shut down an entire school. That's
I might have misspoken. It might not have been the school. It might have been her class.
It depends on the district. So my wife is teaching now, back in the class, and last year they had this idea of quarantined groups where like you were in a learning group, and if that group got sick, then that group would be quarantined out of the school, which was a great concept until you looked at the lunch rush and it was like 4,000 students in one room all spitting on each other and yelling at each other, and you're like, okay, what's the point of this? So they ended up like within 2 weeks of that policy just shutting the whole school down and being like, yeah, that didn't work out like we thought it would. Like, no shit. You got to be kidding me. I thought that was real well thought out. But you know what isn't poorly thought out?
What's that, Tom?
Honey Badger.
Honey Badger transforms you into a DevOps hero by combining error, uptime, and cron monitoring into a single easy-to-use platform. Stop wasting your time tailing logs and deploy with Swagger. Visit honeybadger.io today to level up.
Thanks, Honey Badger.
Thank you, Honey
Thanks.
Badger. We do appreciate your support. Honey Badger,
Definitely.
the official sponsor of PHPUgly, whether they like it or not.
A lot of people in Discord are installing Honey Badger and using it.
I know, I saw that. Mike, was it Mike Page? Or who was it in our Discord that just recently said it? I'm pretty sure it was MikePageDev who said he installed Honey Badger recently. So, yes, it's always good. Always good.
Yeah.
How about you, John? I don't think we talked about your week.
Well, I
Did you
told you
do
about my
development?
kid. That was horrible.
Yeah, vomit in the bed pretty much covers a week, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's true.
Last week was Thursday when we recorded. Right after a release, I told you how horrible it was. It did not get any better Friday. Friday was another day of hotfix after hotfix after hotfix. I swear I set a record of hotfix PRs going live in the matter of 2 days. It was nuts. And the sad part was the code itself wasn't necessarily bad, and multiple people are taking kind of responsibility, even though I wrote the code.
Mhm.
There was a refactor PR created 6 months ago.
Ooh.
That worked. And then every time something changed, merge conflict, I would try and fix the merge conflict the best I could. It sat in beta where people used the code and said it worked.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, after that PR was opened, additional features, additional pieces were added that weren't taken into account. So that part of the code now was bad. And it was just not taking the time to unit test it because it was existing code made it where no tests was bad. So now I'm in the process of backporting and filling in testing coverage on those classes because it was such a stressful time. Not fun at all.
Yeah, I'm getting after talking to Sebastian, I'm kind of getting the itch for testing again. So I might be going down that path.
I tell you, you need to. It's having the test coverage makes it so much easier to refactor or make changes. The confidence to release something, because every time we go to release something, that's why my PR sat there for 6 months, because there's no test coverage, and it's like, well, what if? Well, what if you don't and the PR goes bad? There's that part of it too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely needed. We'd also talked about doing code review lately.
Yeah.
And I tell you, there are some people that do excellent code reviews to the point where it can be annoying, but helpful as well. And I know one of the person is probably listening, has listened in the past. I appreciate your code reviews so much, but at the same time, I opened like 3 or 4 pull requests last night or yesterday, and not a single one got through code review without could, should, you must do this, you should do this.
I was gonna ask about that because where do you stand on could and should in code reviews?
Obviously a must, you have to do.
Right, like this is an error, etc. But
a should, it's almost a must, but it's not.
Yeah,
you should do this. It goes back to the author. A could is, I mean, on all of them, if there's any of those comments, they go back to the PR author. But the PR author can say, yeah, I could do that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to push it on.
Yeah.
So, and then it goes on to the functional reviewer after that.
So I had an interesting ticket this week that I was doing code review on where there was a validation that wasn't strict enough on a field, and it had produced a 500 error because the user had passed in an array instead of a string. So the ticket was, fix the validation here. And in that validation, there were 10 other fields that didn't require a string validation that should. And I was sort of debating, what is the strictness of the ticket here? Is the bug request says fix this field, but my sort of interpretation of the bug request was the user said fix this field, but it's the because that's the real bug ticket. The because validation is not strict enough on this field or other fields.
That becomes tricky because it's not part of the actual ticket.
Right.
So you're seeing something else in there. So
I'm reading into the intention of the stakeholder.
But to John's point, is it a bug ticket? See, I would say you address the bug and then open up another ticket saying, hey, we should
do this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be done in the same PR as it depends on your team. If your team is like, oh yeah, it's easy enough to tackle, I'll do it as part of this ticket.
Sure. Right? And strictening up the validations could cause problems with the tests that you might not be testing for the strictness of the validation. So in our environment, if we tighten up those validations, we should also tighten up the testing requirements for those fields.
Right.
So I see what you mean.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a balancing act, and it becomes part of your team culture. Like, are you working together where your should, even though it has nothing to do with the ticket, improves the code base and everyone's fine with that, great. But if you're really being judged on how many tickets you close, then they're going to be like, no, I did the job for the ticket. Screw you. I'm not doing that. So
I just have to say real quick that on Zoom, the blur is much more effective. The cat licking itself behind me is not nearly as in crisp a detail.
I could come up with so many titles for that one, but you guys give me a hard time about it. So I will not talk about cats and licking or any variation of that.
So, all right, I'm going to go back to pull requests, our reviews, since we're on it.
Yes.
Do you pull down the code to your local machine, or do you just review it on GitHub?
Depends. So that ticket that I just talked about, where it was a 5-character change to an existing request object, I could pull it up in GitHub and say, like, yeah, it's 5 characters. Like, that's the whole change.
Yeah, that I would not expect you to pull down.
Right. And then there's tickets where a whole new feature is implemented with 80 new test cases that I pull down.
Okay.
So
That's
it's there somewhere between those two. There is a line where like is, and I think as I'm scrolling through the PR on the website, if I get to a certain point and wonder to myself, how close to done am I reviewing this? That's when I decide to download the whole PR and view it from start to finish.
Okay.
And that's I think that's a bad way of doing it. Because as we talked about in the past, like you should start with the new tests or the change tests and new endpoints and follow the logic flow from there. So it can be a difficult call.
It is. I'm bad about it. I don't generally pull down the code, and I want to do better by doing so, because I have people catching, oh, you have a use statement here you don't need. And PHP Storm is awesome about showing you that, but I didn't catch it before pushing code up. And I'm not going to catch it in doing a pull request or a review only on GitHub.
Right.
So pulling it down and, oh, PHP Storm showed me, you can get rid of this. You can tighten up here.
So this is something I'm working on. Is I looked and couldn't find a script that did a static analysis and linting on only the files that have changed from the location, the head of the branch.
You can't use PHP Stand for that?
You can, but PHP Stand wants a list of files that have changed, so you have to have a bash script that gets files that have changed from head to...
Yeah, that's easy enough to do. I can give you that snippet.
Okay, I'd love that.
All right.
So I'm working on a code review process, which includes a code coverage report, static analysis, testing review, like a whole checklist for me on what constitutes a reviewed ticket or a reviewed pull request. And I can't get Xdebug working, which is problem one.
All right, hit me up tomorrow. We'll get it working.
Well, I can't. I don't want to work on it. I have other priorities to work on. Is my issue.
Gotcha.
I could get it working, but I don't have the time right now.
I will send you the bash scripting, but that's what I do right now in a git commit hook. Is through some git commands you get the list of files that have changed, and then you only lint on those. You run your PHP CS on those, so you're not trying to do the entire code base, which takes so long to do.
Right. So that's my first step. I mean, I'm in the middle of trying to develop my code review style right now. And what I really, really want is to be able to switch PHP Storm or VS Code into a code review mode, like read-only files. Don't let me edit files. Try to trace where things are occurring, where changes occurred. If a line is referencing a method that's changed, then like indicate that somehow. There isn't a good IDE for code review, and I feel like that's a thing that's missing, like really missing in the developer environment.
That's interesting.
How would that be different than, say, your IDE though?
Because right now what changed.
Right now my highlighting in my code is designed to help me as a developer. I want all my highlighting flush, and I want my highlighting to help me as a code reviewer. I want
or maybe
I want tool
knowing
tips
what's changed. Yeah, tooltips, or
right.
if I'm able to hit the endpoint that executes this code, maybe auto stop there, like auto breakpoint at change code.
Yeah, auto breakpoints to change code. The same way that we have breakpoints, we can approve like line by line. We can say we approve this line. We can comment directly on it straight to Jira or whatever your project management is. Like integrate all of these tools that we have into an IDE, because our IDE, the way it stands now, is a billion tools that used to exist all separate, brought together into a single interface. And we could do the same with the code review process, bring all of these code review processes together and say, hey, this is in code review mode. You haven't reviewed this large block of code, and this large block of code isn't tested, and this test is failing, or this test might occasionally fail here because you're calling something that pulls random data, or just there's a lot of stuff out there all together that could do this.
That's another thing to talk about in the code review process. When you're looking at tests, do you spend the time looking at edge cases or other? That's the big one, edge cases.
Yeah, I would say that change to enforce strings on that field had 3 or 4 assertions added. I mean, we really test hard.
That's one thing I feel like I'm good and bad at the same time. Like, I know edge cases and I can usually test for them, but I don't necessarily test to the extreme. And I'm bad about using things like a simple not when I don't want it to be 0 or empty, an empty string or null. I'll just say not variable. But then you have the issue of, well, if it's supposed to be an integer and it's -1, I think that evaluates, if not -1, I think it evaluates true, doesn't it? So I'm not bad about passing in values like that.
Yeah, it's we had an incident early on where the rule came down was over test everything. For every line of code, you should have multiple lines of tests.
Yeah. I actually opened one of my pull requests. Was we have a simple phone number class. It takes in a string and then figures out how to transform it into a valid, checks to see if it's a valid phone number, and then treat it as such. The class expected a string. However, the calling code was getting data out of the database, and apparently in some cases the field was null. So we were getting a type error of null, this method was expecting a string, null received, and the code crashes. So my simple fix is, well, let this class accept a null, string phone number, and then first thing I do is check. If it's null, throw an exception. It's invalid data. And the reviewer came back saying, no, that's not acceptable. Don't do that.
Really?
And my immediate gut reaction was like,
you're fired?
I'm trying. No, the immediate gut reaction was like, WTF? Like, what the fuck? We're using this class lots of places. I'm not going to go to every single place right now and fix this. I'm not going to cast to a string, which is the easiest thing to do. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to. I'm just not going to go to the hundreds of places it's used for this one bug. I was trying to stop it at that point. And they came back very adamant that no, it's an invalid type. You don't accept it. Fix the calling code. So I closed that PR, opened a PR for the one place that the bug was encountered, and just cast to a string and was done. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's an easy fix.
Which is a lot like what we were just talking about.
I was trying to fix it in mass, but it's not necessarily the right way to do it.
Programming is a headache.
It is. Definitely is. Question for you guys.
Yes.
Eric, do you,
Yes.
since you're not talking much this episode.
He's froze.
Am I frozen?
No, he's just in wine country.
Do you use dynamic properties on objects?
I do not. I saw you. I'm excited about this conversation. No, I do
Yes.
not use dynamic properties.
Yes.
Are you sure you don't?
Explain
not
what
sure I don't.
dynamic properties are.
All right. So the code base I work in uses it an absolute ton. Like if this RFC passes, it's great, but it's also going to be a nightmare for me. A dynamic property is you can have a class. You can
It's
have an
going to be a
object.
nightmare because it'll be an 8.2, so you're not going to have to worry about it.
Well, no, it'll be deprecated, not out.
Right.
Anyway, dynamic property. You have an object. You can just basically append any property to it, whether you declare it or not in your class. And there's an RFC by Nikita pop-up, so it's probably going to pass that. Will remove that ability unless it's a standard class. Your class has get or set magic methods. I think there was one other case in there. But anyway, it's removing this thing. There are
It's an
benefits.
elevation of a property or of an undefined property to a defined property. So if you haven't defined it in your class definition, then an object can define it freely.
Right. Now, I know I use it a ton more out of laziness because it was allowed. So I would have an object. I could just add new properties to it, JSON encode it, and send the data back. So it's going to possibly be, if the RFC passes, it's going to be deprecated in 8 and then pulled out, like not allowed in 9. So you have some time to fix
8.2.
The question is, I don't know how Eloquent does it, but with the database library that I use, I can do any sort of query, and it gets all the properties get attached to the object I'm on. So they are dynamic properties at that point. I wonder, I haven't looked at Eloquent since thinking about it. Like, how does it handle a random query?
Well, Eloquent has a get magic method that handles it. So it's presented as a property, but it's not actually a property in Eloquent because the models have a magic method to resolve them. The issue here is that if you have, well, so Nikita in this PR or in this, I've been doing too many PRs.
RFC.
In this RFC, Nikita points out that if you define a property of last name and you assign it in one of your methods as last gnome, then PHP will not complain.
Right.
So no error is thrown. Your tests won't fail, or unless you're testing specifically that property, your tests won't fail. Like nothing shows up that says, hey, you clearly screwed up. Now, in my IDE, I have a code sniffer that checks for dynamically typed properties or dynamic properties, but in PHP's linting, it doesn't have this. Right. So your code could be fun, like you could have a spelling issue that's fundamentally wrong, screwing everything up, and you just wouldn't know it unless you were doing static analysis for it. So I fully back this concept. And it gets sort of to like the bigger issue is that is a stricter PHP a better PHP?
So far, everything that's been added has been better. Like I
love it.
It's the knowing how much work it's going to take within my code base that scares the hell out of me.
Well, my issue is that it took me 4 or 5 days to get used to return types and attribute types on everything that I wrote. But if this is your first year as a PHP developer, that hurdle just got bigger. If you're required to have return types on everything, then you have to know all the return types. You have to think ahead in a way that senior developers do, but junior developers do not. And I don't want the barrier of entry to be too high, but at the same time, I want the language to evolve and to improve. And for me, I learned PHP because the barrier was low. But that doesn't mean I should have stuck with 4.6 or 4.8, which is where I started. Like that, yes, the barrier to entry is low, but register globals was bad. Like, so where do we draw the line? And there's a lot of arguments in the internals conversations about the barrier to entry. They don't want a lot of features that will raise the barrier to entry on PHP. And I think that's a bad way of looking at things. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I did.
On my end, you did. You went away, and then all of a sudden, yeah. This is very rare. I feel like we should make a note of this show, but I'm going to agree a lot with what Tom is saying here. I think that where PHP is going,
I'll accept it.
I think where PHP is going is going to start requiring more knowledge. Like that barrier of entry is going to raise up. I don't see that as a bad thing. I'm glad I didn't have to do it, because who knows if I would have been able to make that. But I feel like I'm evolving with PHP. A lot of new things in PHP I'm liking. We'll talk tomorrow. If you listen to this podcast, you'll want to listen to the PHP Architect podcast, because this month's magazine has a section in it about the attributes. And that was something that I was very interested in using when I saw it. Then I kind of lost that interest when I got, now that's available to me. Like I don't find myself using it. Once or twice, I think PHP Storm has offered it to me, and I look at it, I'm like, nah, that looks too weird for me. I don't want that in my code right now. But again, I know I keep going back to this conversation, I'm sorry for name dropping, but Sebastian spoke about this and how he has fully embraced it in his code base and how much he loves it. And he goes through some of the use cases of why. But things like that, not to get off course too much here, things like that, I'm lucky. I got in the ground floor. I've been passionate about it. I've been paying attention to it, and I've been learning as this evolved. But yeah, I mean, we live in a different world. We live in the web is way more complex than it was, and PHP is still on top because of that evolution. Yeah, I agree with Tom.
Well, and I would even argue that Node and JavaScript are in the position that they're in because of PHP's position on keeping things easy. Where if we had done this years ago,
that's a good point.
Node wouldn't be nearly as popular, because Node is solving problems that PHP sort of refuses to. And that's why it's Node, Ruby on Rails, these sort of pop-up languages. And for a while we even had Facebook's PHP implementation Hacklang, which was like the super strict version. And I feel like that kind of pushed the whole community to say, like, okay, if Hack is getting popular, clearly we're doing something wrong in the development cycle. Because like We don't want Facebook to own what PHP is in the future, so we need to take it back. So it's definitely a balance, and like in the conversations you see in internals, that balance always comes up. But there's a lot of people with sort of old hat ideas of what PHP should be that keep defending it as being the simple language.
And to be clear, Facebook kept pushing those features back to PHP or making them available, right? It's not like they made it proprietary in any way.
Right.
They're like, you should do this, and finally it was taken up. Kevin in Discord brought up the fact that PHP's biggest weakness is WordPress. And I don't know if I buy that anymore. I know for a long time that was a big holdback because WordPress was very backward compatible. They wanted to be backward compatible before, but I don't know if that's PHP's weakness. It's not like the language itself is holding itself back because WordPress refuses to change.
That's a good way to put it. I think the biggest weakness, I think it's a perceived weakness because so many people, especially the general public, think that WordPress is PHP, and they see the problems that WordPress had. And I don't keep up with the WordPress community. I don't know, if it's how many issues they have nowadays with the.
They're doing well now. They're doing pretty good.
Yeah, but I think it was a perceived problem with. You and I, John, have been in meetings where people thought that WordPress was PHP. That we were having the same discussion when we were talking about developing stuff in PHP. So yeah, I think, and to your point, John, exactly. I think maybe PHP did drag its feet a little bit because of some of the pressure I felt from the WordPress community to allow their code base to help them keep their code base compatible. And I think nowadays that's whether it was official or not official, it just seemed that way. But between what Tom said with Facebook and where we're at now with the internals team, that's clearly not the case anymore. It's full steam ahead. There
was a while where the clowns were telling the car company, "You can't put a bigger engine in there. We need to fit all these people in here." And eventually,
it's a funny analogy.
I went to a circus recently. It was in my mind. You know what's always on my mind?
What's always on your mind?
Me.
Our wonderful patrons on Patreon. We have anybody new this week?
We do not.
All right.
Anybody new? So screw this.
So
no, just kidding.
So somebody hasn't been following the first rule of PHPUgly Club, which is tell everyone about PHPUgly Club.
It's a pyramid scheme. You guys are supposed every Patreon is supposed to bring on 3 more Patreons who bring on 3 more Patreons. Come on, people.
I thought it was 5.
You just invented the worst version of Patreon.
Every Patreon member gets 5 more Patreon members.
No, you just invented the pyramid scheme version, like where if you get people to use your sign up link to sign up with the Patreon, then they can earn money from people they get to sign up. And you you just invented the worst possible thing ever.
Patreonpyramid.com.
That's it. Sign up today.
No.
Speaking of our Patreon,
you have to call it multi-level Patreon.
John, do we have mail coming out? Did you get my message?
What message? I got envelopes. I got lots of envelopes.
You had envelopes last week.
I've got lots of envelopes.
I updated the list.
What list?
The list is current.
I've asked you to send me a list.
I sent it to you in Slack. It's in Slack.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Patreon members, I promise you this stuff is coming. Do you see it now, John? Now that I say something?
You can't promise for John. We've proven that.
I can't. at 6:18 on Monday the 23rd.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
What's wrong with you? Did you get drunk or something? Yeah, do it again. Yeah, boom, boom. Oh wait, what just happened? No, not that. Don't do that. What was that? Yeah, that.
What's
That. I did my part, John.
what part?
Sorry.
I thought you were gonna come pick this stuff up and mail it.
No, you're mailing it. That's your job.
Oh, that's my job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why did I have everything sent to your house?
That's what I was wondering. You've always sent it out.
We have the video feed manager, the editor, and the fulfillment.
Fulfillment.
Oh.
That's you. You're fulfillment. Start
Oh.
fulfilling.
All right, one of these weeks.
I promise
Last week-
everybody we have the supplies. He has the addresses. We'll get it done. Last week.
Last week, I told you about the hacker who stole $600 million from the Poly network
And then return some of it.
and returned
Crazy.
like half of it and promised to return the rest of it. And here's how stupid money is. The article says he returned all of it, returned the rest of it. It's all back where it
Awesome.
should be in the first place,
Awesome.
except for $33 million.
If I stole 600 and I returned 570,
What's $33 million between friends? I mean, come on.
Employees, they are hiring him.
Really?
They are hiring him. The white hat hacker, the hacker that he calls that they call Mr. White Hat, has received a job offer as their security analyst. It is fascinating.
even
but
though he
yeah,
got
like-
$33 million.
Well, the word is he's not keeping it. It's just it's locked in some way that they can't get it moved yet. But it's
We
like
shouldn't
it's a
say he, we
frozen.
don't know who it is.
Oh, okay. So the issue is that the 33 million is in USDT, which is it's a pinned token. It's pinned at the dollar, so its value is always worth $1. And Poly reached out to USDT and said, "Hey, freeze the money on this. Don't let transactions go through with this address." And so they froze it, and now they're saying, "Okay, unfreeze it so he can send it back to us," and they haven't responded yet. So it's a lengthy process. But what's really interesting to me is that Poly Network basically said, "Hey, we're going to recover all of this money that was stolen," and then they did. Which for crypto is weird. Like they were able to lock a distributed network down and say all of these coins are now invalid and cannot be transferred unless they're being transferred back to us. And everyone was like, "You got it. We're on board." And it worked.
What if Mr. White Hat already worked for them and this was just a big publicity stunt to get their name into the media?
If it's a big publicity stunt, it's
Dun, dun,
amazing.
dun.
It is. This is the only theft and recovery of its kind in history. This has never occurred before. Yeah, as ButteryCrumpet is saying, it's a false flag operation. But Poly Network responded and was like, "Yeah, we got this, and we'll get your money back. Don't worry," and did, which is stunning. I'm incredibly impressed.
I can tell.
But yeah, they offered him a bug bounty of $500,000 and a job as the
Guy's got 33 million. Think he cares?
chief security officer. And I'm baffled.
I baffle.
Now, Eric, you were talking about attributes and and how cool they are, but you just sort of haven't like put them in place yet. The State of Laravel 2021 survey came out and might indicate why.
Bum, bum, bum. Why?
So according to the survey, this is a which PHP version are you running, and you could choose multiple. 67% of people responding are running PHP 8.0, but 77% of people responding are running 7.4. And if you're running 7.4, you just can't use the annotations.
That's already over 100%, though. I'm confused.
It's like I just said, you could choose that you're running multiple versions.
And when you have a team size of 1 or 1 to 5, which one are you supposed to choose?
Enterprise.
Enterprise is always the answer.
Yeah, enterprise is always the answer.
Well, shouldn't that be 2 to 5 and then 6 to 10, not 5 to 10?
That's true. 1
Yes.
and 1 to 5. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it should.
Where did this who did the survey? I permanently see so many different technology. Blah blah blah. Introduction. Who's the survey from? Do we know?
State of Laravel on Twitter. Let me follow the paper trail.
That's actually a Twitter account with 39 followers, and they follow nobody.
Yes.
Which actually brings up an interesting question. It looks like it was just created actually back in July. So it must be this.
As far as I know, it's a standalone thing. Tobias Petrie.
Tobias.
Petrie, yeah. But I believe it was disseminated through Laravel News, so that's where they got all of their responses from.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know how much I care about these surveys. I mean, nothing against Tobias or the work that they put into this. I even JetBrains. I mean, it's, I don't know. Well, I don't know how much I put into it.
This kind of follows with a previous survey I saw through PHP, PHP.net, that had said, the numbers are basically the same. People are slowly adopting 8, but it's not as quick as the 7 adoption went. So
end of life on 7 is happening soon, right? What's end
2
of life
months?
on 7.4?
Yeah,
2 months. And security in 6 months.
Security in 6 months. Yeah, look at that. Wow. Yeah. 7.4.
They don't tell us how many people took this survey, do they?
That would be a good number to have. Yeah, they do not. Over X amount of responders or something.
Yeah. All right. Pretend I never said anything about it. Perfect.
No, don't be mad. We're just making some evaluation. Brings up an interesting question, though. I mentioned the Twitter handle. The State of Laravel has 39 followers and isn't following anybody.
I want to know. Could you fake a survey like this?
Sure.
Like if you made it nice and pretty like this one is, and made obviously bad, like
70% of people are still using 5.6.
Exactly. How far could you get Reddit to push a survey that was obviously falsified?
I don't even care to participate in this exercise, but
that's okay. I'll put your name on it.
So I was going to say, it's not. I mentioned in the past my practice of always following people back, and I have been slipping on that recently.
I started doing it too.
I will be honest with you. I need to go through and see who's followed me recently and go back through. I had a little bit of a PHP roundtable bump, and I lost track of all the new follows after that. But I still follow more people that follow me, so that's a little sense of pride that I have. I will always follow more people than follow me. But my question was, so I extend that to the other handles I manage. So PHPUgly, although I'm not as adamant about it, but PHPUgly, I'll go in there and start following back people who follow PHPUgly. Same thing with our company accounts. Any of the handles that I follow, I typically try to do a follow back. I noticed PHP Roundtable, however, didn't do this, and I don't pop over to PHP Roundtable's Twitter account that much. I do manage it now, so it's under my scope of things. But it's only following 4 people, and I don't know, like
the hubris hasn't set in yet. It's still not your PHP Roundtable. It's the PHP Roundtable.
It will always be. It is the community's PHP Roundtable. It is always
one of these days. One of these days, you're going to be like, me, Eric Van PHP Roundtable.
Well, hey, I put my name on the profile. I do have. It does now say hosted by Showcom, so I do have that on the profile. I will. I don't
even put his real name on it.
I put my Twitter. You're supposed to put your Twitter handle on there, Dorcas. But it's always Sammy's, and it's always the communities. I'm just a steward of it currently. So, but I don't know. Just like in general, like, do people care? Like, do you care if PHPUgly and PHP Roundtable, if they give you a follow back, or do you just kind of chalk that off of, this is not, I'm going to follow it, but I don't expect to follow back?
So I can tell you if PHP Roundtable followed me back or if PHPUgly followed me back. Yeah, actually, yeah, I would care. Yeah,
you would.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you why. Because before we did Discord, some of the names, the recognizable names that are in our Discord, started following us on Twitter. Started following PHPUgly on Twitter, and I felt like that meant it was okay for me to ask them a question on Twitter.
Oh, interesting. Oh, okay.
We have. Well, I mean, we have Oscar.
I see that with people, even though I think you can reach out to people on Twitter whether they follow you or not.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to brands, I don't.
But PHPUgly isn't a brand. It's just the 3 of us. And honestly, it's just Eric.
But it's the brands. It's a brand site. Like if I go follow, I don't know, Google, and if it automatically follows me back, I don't care.
Sure,
I don't care about brands following
and that's
me
the other
much.
thing is. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like I don't want people to think it's a bot. Like all of a sudden, I followed PHP Roundtable. It followed me back. It must be a bot or something. So,
but our brand is communicating with people on Discord, with people on the community.
But we are that brand internally. Like people listen. They listen to us. They like if we follow them back. It means to me, it would mean more if I went to a show I listened to. And the hosts follow me more than the show following me.
Well, I get that too. I get follows a lot from people who are obviously PHPUgly listeners, and I always follow them back now.
Right.
Yeah, but to John's point, what we should be doing as a group with PHPUgly and PHP Roundtable is that when we do have new followers, we should be following back as individuals.
No.
No?
No. That's a gratuity too far.
What do you mean?
Huh?
That's too much of a kindness.
Damn, you're rough, man.
Nah, I still I agree with that, Eric. It's to me the brand following doesn't mean much.
I disagree. I like that our brand is the 3 of us. I like that that it feels like us.
But
that when you at PHPUgly, you might get a response from any three of us. And you'll get a response from us on our personal accounts. When someone @s PHPUgly, you don't respond from the PHPUgly account. You respond from your personal account.
But that's fine. Right? I mean, you don't. The PHPUgly handle doesn't have to follow somebody back to reply back to a tweet.
Right. Somebody can reach out to the general PHPUgly, and then one of us could respond.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like I don't. The only thing it would do for me that I'm aware of is when I do go to those accounts, that initial Twitter stream, I would be populated by those people I follow, which I don't really care about, because the people I care to actually follow, I have in my stream. So when I'm going to these brand accounts, I'm usually popping in to reply as that brand, or to see a DM in that brand because somebody's DM'd me or something like that. So it's not like I'm not engaged on that channel. I guess it doesn't make sense to follow people. Like I say, I just wonder if people like it, like if they like being followed by brands. But now, to John's point, I typically don't care if a brand follows me, and that's what we're talking about here.
I follow a brand to hear their updates, not to be followed back by it.
Right.
Yeah. I'll agree on that.
Good.
But that doesn't mean that the president of the company has to follow you back because you followed the brand.
No, I agree with that. But this is different. If you're following a show of people you're listening to, and you feel some sort of engagement, you feel like you kind of know them. Now, if that person follows you back, it means a hell of a lot more than that show following you back.
Yeah.
And that's what people get from us. They get reality. They get us.
So you're saying Adam Wathen will never follow me back?
Correct. No matter how much you threaten him.
Even though I bought his book.
Adam Wathen doesn't follow me either. He only follows... Oh, that's weird. He follows 666 people. That seems oddly specific, Adam. Adam, you should give me a follow. You know what's funny?
I love the subtlety of that, because you could just follow @Satan and be more specific.
I'm pretty sure Adam Wathen was my 100th follower, 500th follower, or something. Like, he was we were actually interviewing him for SDPHP, or no, San Diego Laravel user group.
Yeah,
Tom, you and I.
Lug.
And before we interviewed, I was like one shy on my Twitter of some round number, like 500 or 300 or 200 or whatever it was. And he had followed me. So how's that? He may have never followed you, but he followed me and then stopped following me. So that sucks more.
Yeah, that is better. That is better.
At some point, he's like, I don't really need to follow this dickhead anymore. Screw him. So, right.
And with that,
that's a good episode right there.
We're
done?
at an hour. Yeah, we're at an hour 20.
You guys suck, man. That's running way too long.
Did you want me to talk about Samsung
That's
TV?
it. Episode 251 is in the books. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Music.
One, two, coming
You're
off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know, Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host name Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John. You know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles with cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. me. Shouts out to
That's
PHP
happening.
the ugly. It's called ugly because it's not professional. But I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting. I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all
One
know
day
we
we'll be
fill
able
them
to
up
hear
with
this.
anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming
on it.
language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I
when
can
you get
dig
that
it.
fixed,
My words
I'll
very
get
tight.
the Patreon
Then getting
packages sent
together
out.
on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call
What
me
an
the new dude.
asshole.
I spew true lyrics while y'all
What are we
watching
talking
on
about this show?
YouTube. So let's
Since I have
get
this
it. You
pulled
know
up.
my lyrics are major. All up in the comments,
do
they
this
got
while
plenty
we're
of haters,
offline.
but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We
heroes.
ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace.
Oh,
what you
Laravel
think, Kevin.
survey.
Now we need to poll Discord for topics for Harry Mack and do a new intro.
Oh yeah, I would totally do that. What else did we talk about?
Because there's like
Yeah.
12. I think you get like 10 to 12 things.
Oh, heard it.
Yeah, because he's playing in his house and it's coming back through.
Well, that's
Oh,
what it's going to sound like when I get it working.
what did we code review is what else we talked about. Look at this. I already got the show notes done. Code review.
Code review, PRs, crypto,
PHP unit
I got-
testing.
dynamic properties.
Guys, stop talking. It's pulling in all the cards. I just needed a little blurb. TXT. Boom. Done. Just like that.
Butter is going to lead a PHP swimwear or PHPUgly swimwear car wash.
That would be awesome.
Mm-mm.
That would be awesome. I want to
Have
see
you ever
that.
seen Buttery? I mean,
He's a god. He's a
Oh.
Nordic god.
Oh, really?
I don't know. In my
Hold
head
on.
he is.
There.
Watch this. I'm gonna have you. I want to get YouTube updated because I want to get my thumbnail up there. I think I can do. I think thumbnails can be GIFs now. GIFs, however you guys want to say
yeah,
it.
because when you hover over it, it will kind of step through.
No, it does that anyways. But
Sure.
oh,
Maybe.
oh
I don't
wait,
know.
maybe. Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, look at that. Actually, I don't think I can update it because we're still streaming live.
Right.
Learn a new
Damn!
trick.
Did you watch that
What's that?
Veritasium?
I did.
Which
You want to hear something funny? You know why I didn't watch it? Because the thumbnail wasn't very engaging. I didn't realize what it was. I went back and looked after the show.
I want to know why he was on the ladder the whole time.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like looking at the thumbnail. It's been popping up in my feed, and I forget what the title was, and the thumbnail was not engaging at all. So I kept blowing it off. And then you said something about it, and I went back and looked. I'm like, oh shit, that's the video John was talking about. So yeah, I did. And yeah, to your point, it's like, why are you standing on a ladder? Do you not know how to use like the software?
I kept waiting to the end for an explanation of why he was on the ladder that whole time, and it never materialized.
Yeah, that was too funny. What were you saying, Tom? You were saying something.
I don't remember. I got a Kindle Paperwhite coming in the mail. I'm reading a lot.
What's that mean? Oh, Kindle. Oh, Kindle. Yeah. Oh boy.
It's like I want to read. I'm just no good at it. It's like I'm
That's
either
me, man.
I got my
It is
glasses,
horrible.
and it made it actually possible for me to read, and it's really nice.
It's not that. It's time for me. I have no
Yeah.
flipping time.
I'm either
I just
sitting
do
in
it
front of the
all-
computer or I'm
Hell's
with the
Kitchen's
family.
on. I put Hell's Kitchen on the background. That show's
Yeah, I'm not-
terrible. Have you seen it?
I like
Yeah,
Hell's
all the
Kitchen.
dead carcasses
Ugh.
all over. I agree.
Pain in the ass.
It's not that. It's the editing cuts at the beginning and the end of the show every time. It's like they make up a completely fake story for like next time on Hell's Kitchen, guy cuts his hand off. Can he still work? And then like in the actual episode, it's like he cuts his finger for like 2 seconds. He's like, ow, damn it. And then puts a glove on. And that's the end of the whole thing. And they do that every episode. And I'm so bored with it. But I do appreciate the absolute brilliance of Gordon Ramsay finding new employees by basically training them for like 4 weeks and then choosing the one.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of like TikTok videos with veganizing dishes.
Yeah. He's doing the cooking in nature, veganizing stuff. It's interesting. I mean, he won't actually like have a restaurant that's vegan, but
no.
The last episode I watched, he had like the pro chefs versus the amateur chefs that he was testing, and the pro chefs kept fucking up. And whenever they screwed up, he'd go up and he'd be like, no, you got to put this back and do it again. It's raw. Like this isn't going to pass. And then the amateur team would do the same thing. And he'd go like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You fucking idiots. Like, it was fantastic. Interesting guy.
That's one way to put it.
Do you see this thing about the Samsung TVs? I'll just do it now since it's not going to be relevant next week. So like in South Africa, like a shipment full of Samsung TVs got stolen. And the moment they connect them to the internet, they get like bricked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Samsung was like, yeah, we know all the MAC addresses and like internal IDs for all the TVs. So we just told our web client, when they connect to the internet, upload a blank firmware and shut the TV off.
I have a Samsung television and it's pissed me off. So it's one of those smart televisions.
Yeah.
So you can install apps on it. And at first it was really nice. I mean, I had Hulu on there, I had HBO Max, I had YouTube TV, I had every app that my Roku had, I had on my Samsung television. And then over time, they started like installing more and more default apps. And now I can only install like 1 or 2 additional apps that aren't their default apps. All their default apps are shit apps. They're like none of them are any good. And so now, fortunately, I am who I am, and I know how to work around things. And yeah, I figured out I could hook a little USB thumb drive to it.
Yeah.
And install the apps on thumb drive. But even that's not great because it'll lose that connection to that thumb drive every now and then. You have to go back through, and the apps are still there. You just have to reattach them to your home screen. It's such a pain in the ass. I'm so pissed off with it. Yeah.
The worst part is that Samsung is the best of the best as far as that goes.
Honestly,
there's no better option.
It's a pretty good interface. I mean, except for Roku. Like Roku, I think I think Roku's interface is way better.
Well,
and Roku has their
That's the big thing is that the Roku stuff has got a good processor. The Samsung TVs, they have a good enough processor. And the difference is light and day. And
I'm not sure I follow why you say that. Why do you say that?
So you're saying the Roku TV is better?
Yeah, the Roku, Apple TV, like those things, they're snappy, they load quick, they buffer quick.
Yeah.
The Samsung
but
stuff.
You just said Samsung is the best of the best. I'm so confused.
That's what I'm saying. Is that's the bad thing. The bad news is the Samsung TVs that have ads built into them and shitty apps is the best you can get in a TV.
Well, you get a
Roku TV. Like that's what I have, and I like it.
No, I mean like in a TV, like the set itself.
Yeah,
the Roku TV.
What?
It is There's no Roku device attached to it. It is a Roku TV.
Yeah, it's Roku TV.
That's what I
was about to say.
There.
I need to switch my Samsung out for because we still have a Roku in storage.
Yeah, the Vizio with Roku added in it.
Mm-hmm.
The operating
it's a
system.
Roku TV. It's a Roku TV. It's all the only
yeah. Roku doesn't make TVs; they make the chip inside for managing, and they're always fast. What I'm saying is, like, as far as the panels go, as far as the screen goes, Samsung is the best of the screens. But as far as software goes, Samsung is terrible.
That makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, I would say, like, if it weren't for all the crap that they put on the television, their interface is not bad. They have an app store. It's a little HUD pop up that you can use. So it's not a horrible design. It's just they put so much shit on the television.
It could be so much better.
Yeah.
And I love my Samsung TV, but I just hate the integrated stuff that's on it. And I just you don't have a choice to not use the integrated stuff. Well, you do, but you have to add like an Apple TV to it or something like that.
Or Roku.
Yeah, or Roku. Yeah, and those things are great. I just wish that they weren't so stuck in like we have to do it our way.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you on that. All right, guys. I guess I'm gonna go ahead.
Did you guys ever look at some bad programming articles link that I had?
No, where's it at? In Trello?
Yeah, I'm gonna delete it. But somebody had pointed to a specific video by Jeffrey Way eliminating visual debt. That was like the video was so bad that somebody made a mock version of it.
Wait, what? Hold on, I do want to see this now that you say that.
That's why it's I've kept it in there because of this, because there's a Jeffrey Way video that apparently is like basically says don't use features because they're visually frustrating in your code.
Interesting. What are you looking at? What am I missing?
In Trello, I have a ticket called Worst Programming Articles on Reddit.
I don't see it. Did you move it somewhere?
No, my Trello crashed, though. There we go. What are some bad programming articles / websites? So if you go in there, like halfway down that page, someone references Eliminating Visual Debt by Jeffrey Way.
I told you guys he blew me off for PHP Roundtable, right? Did I hear this?
Really? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Even after I got Taylor on board, he was like, "Nah, whatever. Guy's not interested." I can't fault him for that, but I was a little disappointed.
Very excited to refactor Laravel collection, refactoring to collections.
So they linked to like a summation by Marco, not by Jeffrey, but
that
Marco
link is like a satire.
Oh, I haven't read it. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically satire of what Jeffrey Way was saying.
No, I don't want
editing.
Oh.
Colorado privacy law, that can go. Revolt on Twitter can go until there's anything new. Nullable intersection types can go.
Yeah, I need to clean mine up too.
Happy birthday, Linux. 30 years. Big fan.
Yeah, I had that on my board actually.
Now you can delete it. That password, the GitHub password authentication thing. When is that?
Hey Thomas, what
August
were you doing?
13th.
Why were we hearing you vape, but it's not in Zencaster?
It is. That was just the one time when I forgot to hit mute.
I'm not seeing it. I caught where, because I made a note of the timestamp, and I got where I said something to you, but I'm not seeing. You know what? I'm just going to silence you right here. It's got to be there somewhere. Maybe I'm just not seeing the little blip.
I have a. Well, it wasn't that loud. This thing isn't that loud, and I have a mute button on my Stream Deck.
Yeah, it's just weird because I heard you. I think I heard you like twice, and then, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing it in Zencaster at all. So I'm not going to worry about it. Look at that! I'm almost done editing.
Cats are getting needy. I gotta feed them.
All right.
Thank you everybody for
guys take it
listening.
easy.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
night.
hanging out.